Welcome, traveler. The fog has settled. The moon is high. And the keeper is ready to tell you a tale. Tell me, where are you tonight? What hour has found you? Are you curled up in bed or perhaps laying on a couch? Candlelight flickering in the corner? Is it raining where you are? Or do the stars shimmer silently above your window? Down. Our story tonight begins beneath a mountain older than memory, where the wind hums through hollows carved by claws in time. Here, wrapped in layers of moss and silvered stone, rests a forgotten kingdom, its name only whispered now by the last trees and the dreams of dragons. It was once ruled by a king with scales black as midnight glass, and eyes that burned not with rage but with sorrow. They called him the Hollowscale King. And his blood, they said, still sings through the roots of the mountain. Long after his crown was shattered and his court turned to dust, the mountain remained, and within it, a girl was born beneath quiet stars. Her name was Isilde. She wasn't a princess, not a warrior, not chosen by prophecy or divine signs. She was a gatherer, a listener, a child of firelight and whispered tales. And on the night of her 12th winter, as snow fell like feathered ash beyond the thatched roof of her village, she felt something stir beneath her skin. Not fear, not pain, but calling.
Out.
The elders had always warned her to stay from the hollows, the vast caverns, that wound like veins through the bones of the mountain. They spoke of vanishings, of cursed breaths and lost echoes. But Isilde did not fear the dark. She heard it. Even as an infant, she would tilt her head to the wind and murmur songs no one had taught her. As she grew, she walked barefoot through mist and stone, humming lullabies she never remembered learning. Some said she was odd, some said she was touched, but the mountain said, "She is mine." And so on the eve of her 13th year, she followed the hush of snow into the forest, past the boundary stones, past the hollowed oaks that leaned like sleeping giants. In her satchel, a half-burned candle, a strip of dried honey root, and her grandmother's woven shawl. Beneath her breath, she whispered, "I'm not here to take. I'm here to remember." The hollows opened before her, not like a threat, but like an exhale. Stone arches rising in silence, moss glowing faintly with bioluminescent breath. And deep, deep within, a hum, low, ancient, calling. The further she walked, the quieter the world became. No bird song, no wind, only the soft pad of her feet against the stone. And then, a single note. High, clear. Like a bell struck underwater, she stopped, pressed her hand to the wall, felt it. The memory of scale, the echo of sorrow, the breath of the king. At the center of the first cavern, Isilde knelt. The air was warm here, almost like the inside of a sleeping creature. The stone beneath her pulsed, not fast, not slow, just steady, a heartbeat. And from the ceiling, dripping down like melted pearl, hung a single black scale, larger than her hand, gleaming faintly. She reached toward it. And the moment her fingers brushed its edge, her mind opened. Images, feelings, memories, not her own. The sound of wings splitting storm clouds, the taste of ash and rain, the ache of a crown too heavy, a kingdom drowned in flame, and above all, the loneliness of being the last. Isilde gasped, but did not pull away. Instead, she placed her other hand to the ground, anchoring herself, listening not with ears, but with blood. And deep beneath the mountain, the old voice stirred, "Daughter of breath, you remember? The story is just beginning. There is more to see, more to feel. But for now, rest your thoughts. Let them nest in the dark warmth beneath the mountain. Let your breath follow Isilde's. Let the hush carry you, as the blood remembers. You're still here. That's good. Let your body sink deeper now, like roots pressing into soft soil. Let the warmth curl along your arms and drift softly down your spine. You're not falling, you're remembering. Let the hush wrap you like Isilde's shawl warm, woven and true. The fire waits beside you. Breath waits within you." Isilde sat in the stillness for a long time. The scale hovered before her, suspended by threads of ancient memory. It pulsed with an ember glow. Not hot, not cold, just live. When her breath matched its rhythm, the cavern changed. Not in shape, but in tone. The mossy walls shimmered faintly, revealing carvings, not words, but patterns. Lines like dragon eyes, lines like veins. And in the center, a shape she did not know, a serpent crowned in thorns. Its mouth closed, its eyes sorrowful, she whispered. What happened here? And the scale answered. Not in speech, but in feeling. Flame, loss, silence. A long time ago, before the hollows, before the stillness, there was a voice so vast it shaped mountains just by grieving. A king, crowned not in gold, but in memory. The Hollowscale King had once ruled with balance. Not peace, exactly, but order. His realm was the deep-bone world. Hidden rivers, glimmering crystal roots, sleeping flame vents. He ruled with 3 others, his siblings, the scale-bound trinity. But jealousy, that old creeping ivy, grew in the veins of one brother, and blood was spilled, not in battle, but in betrayal. The Hollowscale King was tricked, his breath bound in chains of silver, his wings scorched by false prophecy. He did not scream, he did not roar. He wept, his tears hollowed out the mountain. His blood soaked the roots. His silence became song.
Oh.
All that remains is the scale, a single echo of his sorrow, and Isilde was the first in centuries to hear it. She blinked away the vision, the scale now dimmed slightly as if it had shared what it could. And in its glow, a doorway appeared at the far end of the cavern, a spiral of stone leading downward. Deeper into the hollowed bones of the earth, she stood, legs tingling with the strange electricity of ancient grief. And then she stepped through. The passage twisted like memory, wide at times, then narrow as breath. Water trickled along the edges, catching the glow of fungi that blinked like eyes in the dark. She did not light a torch, she didn't need one. The mountain guided her. Down she walked, past the roots of trees long vanished, past murals half swallowed by earth, past bones not human. Not dragon, just shapes once alive, now still. And then a chamber. Circular. Massive. At its center, a pool. Perfectly still, dark as obsidian, reflecting not the ceiling, but sky. Isilde knelt beside it. The air here smelled faintly of ash and myrrh. She reached a hand out and touched the surface. Ripples spread, but not in water. Memory. She was no longer in the chamber. Not fully. She stood now at the edge of a vast throne room, its walls lined with molten stone, and flame-touched banners bearing a sigil. A crown of broken horns wrapped around a dragon's heart. And there, on a throne of root-trapped obsidian, he sat, the Hollowscale King. Massive, still, silent. His wings were folded like cliffs around him. His eyes glowed faintly. Not bright, yet just watching, waiting. And when he spoke, it was in her bones. You bear the breath, but not the wound. Do you wish to understand? Isolde, her voice trembling but clear, answered, I want to listen. The king's eyes dimmed, not with sadness, but with acceptance, and the world tilted. Suddenly, she was falling, not through space, but through memory, through pain, through hope, through the taste of blood that remembers its source. And in that fall, she began to see. Let go now. You've seen the throne. You've felt the breath. You've touched the memory. But the deepest part still waits. Let the hush hold you. You're not alone in this darkness. The king watches. The story breathes. Rest here, listener. Let your thoughts dissolve like mist at dawn. Let the story unfold through your chest, not your mind. This is a tale best felt, not just heard. Breathe with the mountain now, long, slow, like the beat of ancient wings. Isilde fell through the fire, but it did not burn. It held her, cradled her, like a memory that longed to be known. All around her, light spiraled in slow ribbons. Flame without smoke, color without heat, and then a voice, not the king's. No, this one was younger and filled with rage. He left us, he wept, while the world bled. The flame took shape, a slender dragon of emerald and rust, wings torn and eyes like polished copper. You come to honor him, it hissed. You come to hear his sorrow. He was no savior. Isilde stood trembling. She could feel it. This was Varen. The brother who betrayed, and the fire around her. was his memory. He was meant to rise, Varen spat, but he mourned. He bent his head to guilt, hid in hollows while I faced the sky alone. Images flared around Isilde of battles fought above the tree line, of dragons falling in smoke, of humans rising with steel and poisoned flame. Varen had fought, fiercely, brutally, but always alone. I did not betray, he growled. I endured. And Isilde saw it, the loneliness behind his fury, the pain behind the pride, the longing for the king to rise again, to burn the world clean, to remind it who once ruled the skies. But the king had wept. He chose silence. Varen whispered now. And silence killed us. The flames darkened. The memory ended. And Isilde stood again in the great cavern, the pool of reflection at her feet now rippling gently. She felt different, older, heavier, not because of time, but because she now carried a piece of another's grief. The truth was not simple. The king had not been perfect. He had chosen stillness, when others wanted storm, and yet, beneath it all, his sorrow had held love. She turned from the pool, and the chamber darkened behind her. Only the faint trail of bioluminescent moss guided her onward, downward, deeper. Soon, she came upon another cavern, this one smaller, quiet, like a forgotten nest. And there, coiled in stillness, lay a figure, not living, not dead, not quite, a dragon's skeleton, glimmering faintly with silver threads, as if spun by spiders made of starlight, and cradled in its ribcage. A heart, still beating, softly, slowly, like the echo of a lullaby whispered in reverse. Isilde stepped forward. She placed her hand on the bone. No vision came, no words, only warmth. The king had died here, but not completely. His body faded. Yes, but not his blood. He had folded into the roots, into the veins of the mountain, into the breath of any who would remember him gently, and Isilde was now bound. Not with chains, but with trust. She knelt, she closed her eyes, and she listened. Blood that weeps, blood that waits, blood that binds, what sorrow breaks. Let me carry what the flame forgot. The words came on their own, a song without melody, a prayer without a god. And from the heart cradled in bone, a final whisper stirred the air. You are not mine, but you are enough. The hush thickened, as if the mountain itself exhaled for the first time in centuries, and Isilde wept, not for pain, not for fear, but because she had never been so known. Now rest, listener, your breath is steady. The mountain holds you, the king sleeps now, but not in silence. In you. You're still with me? Let's take a long breath. And exhale slowly, just like Isilde now does. Deep beneath the world. No thoughts to chase. No burdens to hold. Let your hands rest. Let your mind loosen, like smoke in lantern light. Let us return. Isilde rose from where she'd wept beside the Hollow King's bones. Her heart no longer pounded with urgency. Glowed. Quiet, like a lantern lit only for those who remember. The chamber of the heart was still. The pulse had faded, but not to silence, to stillness, like a breath held, a memory kept. Behind her, the stone wall began to tremble. Now, Molly, gently. The moss lit up in veins of ember gold, tracing a circle, then opening. Beyond it lay a staircase of glassy obsidian, spiraling downward through shimmering light. Not firelight, not moonlight, something older, something made of echo. Isilde descended, barefoot now, shawl draped loosely around her shoulders. She did not speak. She did not question. She only listened. And the deeper she went, the more she heard. Whispers, lullabies. A language spoken not with words, but with longing. At the base of the stairs, the path opened into a chamber, carved from dragon bone itself. Arched spines rising like cathedral beams, ruined with breath marks. There, on a pedestal of petrified flame, rested the crown. Not gold, not steel, but a circlet of blackened crystal, woven with scales shed in sorrow. The crown of the Hollowscale King, Isilde approached slowly. The air here was different, heavy. but not oppressive, weighted with memory. Like every breath inside the chamber carried the size of 1,000 years. She reached out, fingers brushed the edge of the crown, and suddenly, vision. Not a flash, not pain, just immersion. She stood once more in the throne hall, but this time, it lived. The banners moved in breathwind. The braziers glowed with real flame, and the king stood tall, crown upon his brow, watching her. He spoke, not as a memory, but as a presence. You have come not to rule, not to avenge, but to listen. She nodded, and he nodded in return. Then I give you not the crown, but its burden. And with that, she felt it, a warmth blooming in her chest. Not searing, not sharp, just deep. A knowing, a tether, a promise. When the vision faded, Isilde stood alone in the bone cathedral once more. But the crown was gone. She didn't need it. The flame had entered her. She turned and began her ascent, each step lighter than the last.
Ow.
Not because the path grew easier, but because she now belonged to it. The mountain knew her.
Ow.
The king had chosen her, and the hush itself sang when she emerged once more into the first chamber. The pool still, the moss dimmed. She found Carlin waiting, her childhood friend. Her fiercest skeptic, the one who had whispered warnings to the wind when she first disappeared. He looked at her not with fear, but reverence. Isilde. He breathed. She simply smiled. And in her voice was the hush of hollows and fire alike. No, I've remembered. Let your breath ease again. Let your eyelids grow heavy. Let the warmth Isilde carries now cradle your own spirit. The crown was never meant for war. It was meant for memory. You are now part of it. Let your thoughts drift like petals on a slow stream. Let your breath guide you. No rush, no wait. You are resting in the story, and the story is resting in you. Let's return to Isilde, now standing in the quiet dawn outside the mountain's mouth. She had left the hollows before the sun crested the eastern ridge. Her feet carried her not home, but somewhere else. Somewhere quiet, somewhere she could listen. The world above felt distant, no less real, just less urgent. The bird song, once sharp, now sounded like lullabies. The wind's chill on her cheeks was no longer biting. It kissed her skin like the breath of something old and kind. She found a clearing, one she'd played in as a child. Moscow brought stones shaped like broken circles. A ring of standing trunks, trees struck long ago by lightning, but never fallen. Here she sat, cross-legged, palms open to the sky, and she listened. Not for words, not for visions, but for presence. The crown's memory, though it had vanished physically, remained in her chest like a second heartbeat. And from it, something stirred. Not the king's voice, not Varen's fire, someone else. A whisper, your name is not just your own. Isilde felt it then, the lineage. Not of bloodlines or royal scrolls, but of remembrance. She was part of the line of keepers, not rulers, but memory bearers. Those who walked between the fire and the hush. Those who kept the sorrow of dragons from sinking too deep into silence. She stood, turned slowly, and there, on the moss-covered stone behind her, a marking, not carved, not painted, grown, like lichen shaped by will, symbol. Two spiraling flames, one rising, one falling, intertwined, cradling a single open eye. She reached toward it. And the moment her fingers met the moss, a memory not her own entered her. A woman older than Isilde, cloaked in scale-threaded robes, stood at the edge of a great valley. She whispered stories into the wind, each one floating upward in the form of glowing runes. Children sat at her feet, not all human, not all whole, but all listening, all still. Do not fear the dragons, she told them. Fear only forgetting them. Isilde gasped, pulled back her hand, and the moss faded to green again. Just moss, just stone. What she now knew, she was not the first, and she would not be the last. From that moment on, Isilde became more than a girl, more than a gatherer, or than a listener. She became a bridge, between ash and breath, between flame and silence, between memory and dream. She wandered, village to village, never staying long. But wherever she passed, fires burned a little warmer. Old songs returned to the lips of children. Stories were told in softer voices, and dragons once feared were, now spoken of with reverence, with grief, with longing. Some called her a witch, others a healer. Few understood her fully. All remembered her hush. And far beneath the mountains, deep where the king's bones slept in lightless peace, a single vine of glowing moss began to grow. A new memory cradled in earth, a new thread in the tapestry of flame. Let your body rest again, as Isilde rests beneath starlight. You carry no burden, it's only memory. The fire does not scorch, it remembers. And so do you. Let your jaw loosen, let your shoulders melt, down, down. Into the moss and the hush. Each breath is a lullaby. Each word is a stone on the riverbed of sleep. There's no need to think, only feel, only listen. The journey is not a path, it's a pulse, and you're inside it, Isilde. Moved through the land like a candle's breath, gentle, flickering, never quite still. Her story was not written in pages or monuments, but in the memory of soil, the whisper of water, and the low songs of old trees. She had no throne, no banner, no need for followers, and yet, wherever she passed, echoes grew softer. Silence thickened into sacredness. One day in the northern wilds, beneath a sky painted with green flame and stars, Isilde came upon a village carved into ice. The people were kind but wary. They had heard of her. She speaks to fire, they whispered. She listens to bones. They did not turn her away, but they watched. An old woman, blind, wrapped in wool fur, approached her at dusk. There is something buried, she rasped, not far from here. It sings when the moon is full, but no one dares touch it. Isilde tilted her head. It sings a hum, the woman said, like wings folded in snow. We call it the waiting flame. That night, Isilde went out alone. The snow groaned underfoot. The stars stretched wide, clear and sharp. In the distance, a low hill of ice shimmered with silver moss. As she approached, she heard it a hum, faint, steady, not of wind, of breath. The hill wasn't a hill, it was a tomb, but not one sealed in death. This was a cocoon, and inside, the last living kin of the Hollowscale King waited. Not yet born, not quite slumbering, a flicker, a spark, held in stasis by ancient magic, wrapped in crystal and snow. Placed a hand against its icy shell and whispered, I remember. I remember the sorrow, the silence, the song, and something inside stirred, not loudly, just enough. The hum grew warmer. The frost thinned, the voice not hers, not the king's, but smaller, softer, replied then, I will wait no longer. A crack formed, not violent, gentle, like waking from the longest dream, and from within the crystalline tomb, light spilled. Amber, soft gold, ember orange, small shape emerged. A dragon no larger than a fawn, its scales iridescent with lavender and coal-black shimmer. Eyes wide, unblinking, new. It looked at her, Isilde, wept again, but not from sorrow, from hope. The little creature stepped forward, touched its nose to her palm, and sighed. A warm puff of breath filled with ancient memory and newborn trust. And in that moment, Isilde knew the king's blood had not ended. It had waited, it had watched, it had trusted her. She carried the hatchling back to the village. The people did not cheer. They did not run. They bowed. Not to the dragon. Not to Isilde, but to the silence between them. To the understanding. To the return. That night, by firelight, as the hatchling slept curled at her feet, Isilde told stories. Of the Hollow King. Of Varen's fury. Of sorrow that shaped mountains. Of memory that waited in moss and stone and scale. And the people. Listened. As you are listening now, let your breath match theirs. Let your thoughts drift like snowlight over ice. You're a part of this hush now. You're a part of the remembering, and the flame inside you waits too. Not to burn, but to bloom. Let your jaw loosen. Let your shoulders melt. Down, down. Into the moss and the hush. Each breath is a lullaby. Each word is a stone on the riverbed of sleep. There's no need to think, only feel, only listen. The journey is not a path, it's a pulse, and you're inside it, Isildur. Moved through the land like a candle's breath, gentle, flickering, never quite still. Her story was not written in pages or monuments, but in the memory of soil, the whisper of water, and the low songs of old trees. She had no throne, no banner, no need for followers, and yet, wherever she passed, echoes grew softer. Silence thickened into sacredness. One day in the northern wilds, beneath a sky painted with green flame and stars, a Sild came upon a village carved into ice. The people were kind but wary. They had heard of her. She speaks to fire, they whispered. She listens to bones. They did not turn her away, but they watched. An old woman, blind, wrapped in wool fur, approached her at dusk. There is something buried, she rasped, not far from here. It sings when the moon is full, but no one dares touch it. Isildur tilted her head. Sings a hum, the woman said, like wings folded in snow. We call it the waiting flame. That night, Isildur went out alone. The snow groaned underfoot. The stars stretched wide, clear and sharp. In the distance, a low hill of ice shimmered with silver moss. As she approached, she heard it a hum, faint, steady, not of wind, of breath. The hill wasn't a hill, it was a tomb, but not one sealed in death. This was a cocoon, and inside, the last living kin of the Hollowscale King waited. Let your jaw loosen. Let your shoulders melt. Down, down, into the moss and the hush. Each breath is a lullaby. Each word is a stone on the riverbed of sleep. There's no need to think, only feel, only listen. The journey is not a path, it's a pulse, and you're inside it. Isildur moved through the land like a candle's breath, gentle, flickering, never quite still. Her story was not written in pages or monuments, but in the memory of soil, the whisper of water, and the low songs of old trees. She had no throne, no banner, no need for followers. And yet, wherever she passed, echoes grew softer. Silence thickened into sacredness. One day in the northern wilds, beneath a sky painted with green flame and stars, Isildur came upon a village carved into ice. The people were kind but wary. They had heard of her. She speaks to fire, they whispered. She listens to bones. They did not turn her away, but they watched. An old woman, blind, wrapped in wolf fur, approached her at dusk. There is something buried, she rasped. Not far from here. It sings when the moon is full, but no one dares touch it. Isildur tilted her head. Sings a hum, the woman said, like wings folded in snow. We call it the waiting flame. That night, Isildur went out alone. The snow groaned underfoot. The stars stretched wide, clear and sharp. In the distance, a low hill of ice shimmered with silver moss. As she approached, she heard it a hum, faint, steady, not of wind. Of breath, the hill wasn't a hill. It was a tomb, but not one sealed in death. This was a cocoon. And inside, the last living kin of the Hollowscale King waited. Isildur knew what it meant. Others had learned. The whispers of the flame child had spread too far, and fear, that ancient, hungry force, had begun to wake. That night, Isildur didn't sleep. She sat beside the fire, watching Iorthal breathe. His flame pulsed in patterns. Not wild, not random. It's like a heartbeat trying to form words. And when dawn crept over the gorge, he finally looked at her. They will come for me, his gaze said. And Isildur, soft and certain, replied, then we will go to them first. Rest here now, listener. Let your breath slow again. You are not hunted. You are not feared. You are the quiet ember that warms without burning. Like Iorthal, like Isildur, you are not alone. Settle now, back into the rhythm of sleep. Let the weight of your limbs grow soft. Let your jaw unclench. Let the hush press over your shoulders like a velvet sky. The fire is beside you. Isildur walks ahead. Iorthal's shadow stretches behind her, but never too far. They move southward now, through lands that once sang with empire, now rusted with old wounds and wary silence. Isildur said little. Iorthal said less, but the flame between them whispered, a constant flicker of knowing. In the city of Vorthal, they entered as travelers, cloaked, and quiet. The people stared, not at Isilde, but at the gleaming eyes behind her shoulder. They had never seen a dragon hatchling, not in their time, not in their grandparents' time, only in myths or warning sigils. They were brought before the city's keeper, a woman with ink-stained fingers and a circlet of iron thorns. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were sword-sharp. "I've heard of you," she said, the flame whisperer, the girl who walks with old bones. Isilde bowed her head. "I've come only to speak, not to burn, not to conquer." The keeper tilted her head. "Eh, and yet you walk with fire." Isilde gestured to Vorthal. "He is not fire. He is memory." The woman studied the dragon for a long time, and then, slowly, she nodded, then let memory speak. That night, Isilde stood in the city's open forum. She told no grand story, no prophecy, no threat, only this. He is not the king reborn. He is not vengeance on wings. He is a question. One that asks, can you remember without fear? Can you hold the old flame without feeding it blood? The city listened. Not all believed, not all trusted, but none turned against her. And when she and Vorthal left the next morning, a child ran up beside them with a folded parchment, a drawing, crude but clear, a dragon curled around a hearth, not burning it, just resting there.
Not warming it.
Vorthal purred softly. Isilde smiled. And for the first time, the hush felt like hope. They traveled further still, past borders, past broken towers, through fields where bones still whispered under soil, and in every place Isilde spoke, not loudly, not proudly, only gently, like wind through old curtains, like a song from a throat not used in years. Vorthal grew, not monstrously, but steadily, stronger, eyes wiser. But his fire never raged. It only warmed, only remembered, breathed flame onto old tombstones, and moss bloomed. He touched ancient trees with his scales, and runes appeared. He was not destruction, he was reminder. Rest again now, let your body melt. The memory of flame trace the insides of your breath. Soft, slow, never searing. You're still traveling, but the road is gentle. The hush is long. There's still time. Let the quiet settle into your bones. Your heartbeat match the rhythm of falling snow. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. You are right here in this moment, held by the hush. Let your breath fall soft and low like embers in the ash. Let's return. Isilde. And Vorthal traveled until the horizon bent into the rise of the eastern spine, the Dragon Fang Mountains. Here, the hush was thicker, woven into the wind, etched into the stone. No settlements clung to these slopes. No cities dared to nest in the bones of the old kings. This was sacred ground, and called to them. The cliffs rose like teeth, fanged and fractured, snow-dusted and solemn. Vorthal flew for the first time at sunrise. Not far, not high, but enough to taste the sky. Isilde watched, heart swelling, eyes misted with wonder. In a high valley carved by ancient ice, they found it. A circle of stones. Not random, not broken. Placed with care, with meaning. Runes still glowed faintly beneath the frost. Isilde felt it in her marrow. This was where the king had been crowned, not in glory, but in grief. She sat in the circle. Vorthal curled beside her. They didn't speak. Didn't need to. The hush was doing the speaking now. The mountain remembered. They began to show her. She saw the coronation, not a ceremony, but a mourning. The old king, dying. The young heir kneeling. The other dragons circling high above in silent tribute. And the hush, thick, reverent, wrapped around the moment like a veil. But she saw something else too. Choice. The king had not been born to rule. He had been chosen, not for strength, but for silence. For the rare gift of stillness in a world roaring for fire, Isilde let the vision wash over her like rain. And when it faded, she opened her eyes and looked at Vorthal. His gaze met hers. There was no fire in them, only understanding. "You were never meant to burn them," she whispered. Only to remind them. He rested his head on her lap. A low purr vibrated the stones, and for a long time, they simply existed. No past, no future. Only the breath between them. Only the hush. Later, as twilight folded into the valley, a whisper rose on the wind. Not from the mountain, from within her. The last place is near. Isilde looked to the north, where the sky grew dark with stars and old shadows lingered. One more step, she said. Iarthel uncurled, unfolded his wings, and together they took flight. Now you rest. Close your eyes a little more. Let the mountain hush cover you. Let it press like a blanket over thought. There is still more to come, but you are not alone on this path. You walk beside dragons. You sleep within memory. Let go just a little more. Let your eyelids rest heavy. Let the warmth between your ribs rise and fall, slow, quiet, deep. You're safe here. Let us return. They flew north, over forests long abandoned, over rivers that ran black with time, to where the land buckled. Not with mountains, but with old wounds. A crater, vast, silent, wound into the world like a scar. This was the vault, not of gold. A vault of memory, of silence, of flame too sacred to burn. Isilde and Iarthel descended into its heart. The air here was different, thick, charged, as though time itself had paused to listen. At the center stood a single spire of glassy stone, hollowed by dragonfire. Twisted by grief, Isilde approached it slowly. Each step echoed through the stillness. Each breath stirred the ashes that lined the floor. Iarthel followed, his eyes wide. His flame dimmed, but steady. Within the spire lay a circle carved into the stone, surrounded by broken scale and etched with one symbol, a crown. In flame, cradled by wings, Isilde knelt. She placed her hands on the sigil, and again the vision came. But this one was not of the past. It was a choice, a glimpse of what might be. She saw the world waking to dragons once more, but not in fear, not in fire, in song. Stories spoken aloud. Children raised to remember, not to hate. Cities lit not by pyres, but by hearths, and always, always, with a hush between the words. She opened her eyes, looked at Iarthel. This is the last place, she whispered. The last silence, and from it, begin again. She stood, lifted her voice, but not in a shout, not in command. A lullaby, soft, ancient, made of syllables that had no written form. A lullaby taught to her not by tongue, but by presence, by fire, by the Hollow King's breath. Iarthel joined her, his voice low and melodic, more purr than roar, more hum than growl, and the stone beneath them began to glow. Softly, gently, ash rose, spiraled. Formed symbols in the air, and then, from the ashes, rose a figure. Not the king, not Isilde, but a shadow of the past. The first dragon, or what remained of it. A memory given shape, did not speak with words, pressed thought into Isilde's chest, like a tide. You have carried the hush well. You have warmed it without rage. You have given flame a new name. Isilde bowed her head, only listened. That, the presence whispered, is all that was ever needed. Then the figure dissolved, returned to ember. Two-story. The circle on the ground sealed with a pulse of warm light. Silence. True sacred silence returned to the vault. But this time it did not feel empty. It felt full of memory, of breath, of stillness, of beginnings. Now rest again. Let your breath fall deep and easy. Let the hush nest in your chest. You are not lost. You are part of it now. A keeper of the warmth that waits behind the flame. A listener of hushes, sleeper in the cradle of dragons. Take this moment to breathe deeper, to let go of anything heavy, anything sharp. There is nothing to solve, only to feel. It's no time, just now, and in the now a hush. Wrapped in firelight, after the vision faded, Isilde and Iarthel did not speak for a long while. They sat side by side in the hollow of the old vault, letting the warmth settle, letting the memory dissolve into bone and air. They had not saved anything. Not really. They had remembered. That remembering had changed the world. When they rose, Isilde carried with her a new silence, not the hush of fear, not the stillness of grief. This was a peace, earned, endless, the kind that does not shout, the kind that only listens. Irothel had grown. It's not larger, though his wings had widened, but older in the way only dragons can grow. With knowing, with depth, with roots. As they walked down from the vault, the world felt different. Not because it had changed, because they had. Because you have. Because every story told in firelight, every whisper heard in sleep, shapes the world beneath waking. At the foot of the mountain, they came upon a traveler. A girl no older than Isilde had been when she first heard the hush. She carried no blade, no map, only a bundle of worn scrolls and a look of wonder. "Are you her?" she asked. "The keeper of the flame?" Isilde paused. "No," she said gently. "I'm only someone who listened." The girl bowed low. "Then will you teach me how?" Isilde looked to Irothel. He tilted his head. The light from his breath cast no shadow, and together they nodded. "We'll show you the hush," Isilde said. "But the listening, that part must be yours." They walked together then. The girl, the dragon, the woman with firelight in her veins. They wandered from village to village again, but this time not to restore, to plant. Stories, lullabies, rituals for remembering. Not to worship dragons, not to fear them, but to understand them. One night, as they sat beneath a canopy of stars, the girl asked, "What happens when you're gone? When the hush is quiet again?" Isolde looked into the fire. "The hush is never gone," she whispered. "It only waits." She reached out, placed a glowing ember into the girl's hand, and someone always finds it. "Now rest. You're part of the hush now. You carry the ember. You do not need to speak it, only to keep it warm. That is enough. That is everything. Let your body go still again. You don't have to hold anything. The story will carry you. The hush is warm beneath your ribs. Let the world fall away. Let's step softly now into the song that still echoes." Years passed, not in haste, not in grandeur, but in whispers. The hush spread, not as fire, not as prophecy, but as story. There were no temples, only hearths. No monuments, only lullabies sung at bedtime. In places where dragons once walked, stories of Isilde, of Irothal, of the fire that chose to warm instead of burn, of how stillness saved more than fury ever could. The girl, now grown, walked her own path. She became known as Emberseed, not because she carried fire, but because wherever she wandered, the hush took root. She taught others to listen, and not just to dragons, but to wind, to silence, to grief, to stillness. One winter, deep in the frostlands, she came upon a child kneeling before a cairn. The child whispered, "They said a dragon used to sleep here, but I don't hear anything." Emberseed smiled gently. "That's because you're still waiting for a voice. Try listening for the hush instead." The child blinked. "What's the difference? A voice wants you to answer. The hush only wants you to stay." That night, as snow fell like feathers, the child fell asleep beside the cairn. And in their dream, a dragon of light curled around them. Silent, soft, safe. The hush lived on. In the pauses between sentences. In the way someone paused before telling the truth. In the last breath before sleep. It was never loud, never proud, but it was everywhere. Because of that, because of Isilde, because of Irothel. Because of you, it was eternal. Back on the mountains, Isilde had grown old. Not weakened, just quieter. She no longer walked far. She no longer sought stories, because she had become one. Irothal stayed always near. Wiser than flame. Still warm, even in snow. They would sit in silence for whole days as wind carved songs into the stone. When people came, wandering, wondering, Isilde would greet them with nothing but a smile, and an invitation to sit. No speeches, no sermons, only fire, only hush. You're still part of this. The hush is not behind you, it's not finished, it's with you. Each breath, each blink before sleep, each word left unspoken because silence already said enough. Take one more breath with me in through your nose, out through your mouth. Feel how calm has shaped itself around you, like a cloak, like wings. You are safe here. The story holds you. Let's return. Isilde was no longer young. Her hair had silvered, Her steps slowed, but her eyes, they still held fire. It's not the kind that blazes, the kind that glows. She and Irothal now lived in a small cottage. Built where the hush was strongest, it had no door. Only curtains that shifted with the breeze. No lock. Only trust. No throne. Only pillows near a central fire pit, and a place for guests to lay their heads. The world outside changed. New cities grew. Old fears faded. Children no longer flinched at tales of dragons. They leaned closer, eager to hear how silence had saved a world. And though Isilde rarely left the mountain, people came to her. To sit, to listen, to rest in the hush. One day, as snow drifted slowly through the pines, a messenger came. Not urgent, not afraid, only curious. "Keeper," he said gently, "they ask in the southern towers, do dragons still breathe?" Isilde smiled. "Of course," she whispered, "but not always with fire." She beckoned him closer, offered him tea steeped in herbs that grew only in dragon shadow. "Would you like to hear a story?" And so he stayed the night and the next, and soon became the next to carry the hush further still. Irothal, now full grown, had wings like flowing ink, eyes like twin moons, and a breath that warmed without burning. He had not flown far in years. He didn't need to. Sometimes, when the stars were bright and Isilde could not sleep, she would step out into the snow barefoot, and Irothal would follow. Together they would sit, not to speak, not to remember, just to be. One night, as the hush deepened into dream, Isilde leaned her head on Irothal's side. "I think," she whispered, "I am almost ready." The dragon said nothing aloud. But his flame pulsed once, soft and gold. Not farewell, not grief, only understanding. She passed the next night, as soft as breath leaving a candle. No pain, no fear, just hush. And when dawn came, the fire in the cottage had not gone out. It burned steady, strong, gentle, and on the hearth sat a single ember, shaped like a teardrop, glowing with lavender and gold. The last piece of Isilde's breath, Vorthal carried it, not in his claw, not in his mouth, in his flame, and he flew higher than ever before, wings stretched across the sky like a lullaby written in ash and starlight. He carried her memory, not to bury it, but to plant it. Everywhere now, sleep, Ember Keeper. The hush is inside you now. You've heard the breath that outlived time. You've watched the fire that chose not to consume. You've become part of it. Let your eyelids grow heavy. Let your thoughts ripple slow and dim. You are the ember now. You are safe. Lay back now. Unclench your hands. Let the warmth in your chest settle deeper. Like soil welcoming spring rain. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Let's return to the story. Years passed, as they always do. But this time they passed gently. No kingdoms rose from blood. No wars broke from silence. Instead, stories spread. Lullabies woven with hushes. Poems carved into wind-bent stones. Paintings of dragons curled beside humans, not towering over them. And everywhere in the quietest corners, people still spoke her name. Isilde, the last flame singer, the firekeeper, the queen of nothing and everything. The forests of Thurn. A group of children gathered each dusk at the base of a tree shaped like a dragon's spine. They sat in a circle and whispered tales, not of war or conquest, but of hushes that healed, of wings that shielded, of breath that bloomed gardens instead of fire. They called themselves the Ember Spoken, not a cult, not a religion, just a remembering. It's in the western cities. It became tradition to end every winter feast by turning off all the lights and sitting together in silence for exactly the time it takes a flame to burn down one piece of kindling. They called this moment the listening. And in the stillness, you could sometimes feel the echo of a dragon's purr, or a woman's gentle voice saying, "You're safe now. You're warm. Let it rest." Irothal lived on, not because dragons do not die, but because the hush refused to let him go. He became legend. Not hunted, but sought, in dreams, in prayers, whispered without asking for anything. They called him the flame beneath the world, not because he burned out, but because he waited. Sometimes, in the darkest nights, when a village was sick with sorrow or sleep would not come, a soft light would pass over the rooftops. No wing beats, no roar. It's just warmth and calm. And in the morning, the fires in their hearths would burn a little longer. The children would wake without nightmares. The old would remember one more beautiful thing from their past. And in those moments, they would say, "The hush visited us," and they would smile. "You're part of this story now. Your heartbeat is one with Irethal's flame. Your breath rides the hush. You carry Isild's gift in your bones. You don't need to speak it, only to live it. Quietly, gently, bravely. Close your eyes now. Let go of the waking world. Let the hush become all that remains. There is nothing more to hold, it's only to release. We begin and end." Here in a quiet glen far from maps and memory, Irethyll came to rest. Not in sorrow, not in defeat. It's in peace. The world had turned gently, slowly, into something kinder. And so he lay beneath an ancient tree, its branches woven with moss and soft-touched runes, its roots wrapped around stones, once scorched, now cool, now healed. Above him, the sky shimmered with the northern lights, ribbons of violet and ember gold, the colors of Isild's breath. He did not sleep. He did not need to. He only listened. To the hush, to the breath of the world, to the memories spoken in silence. Sometimes a traveler would find the glen. They would not speak, not right away. They would sit beside him, close their eyes, and feel the warmth that pulsed from his heart, soft like a lullaby. And when they rose, they always left changed. Not louder, not braver, just softer. Irethyll never told them stories. But in the hush that filled the glen, they heard one. Story of a girl who listened. A king who chose silence over flame. A dragon who remembered. And a world that was better. Because someone chose not to roar. And so, at last, the hush became more than memory. It became tradition. It became healing. It became home. The world kept turning. New generations rose. The embers spoke and passed down their teachings. Not in scrolls, but in whispered lullabies. Close your eyes now, little one. Let the hush come in. Let the fire rest a while. And let dreams begin. You're here now. At the end of the path, at the resting place of stories, let your breath drift into stillness. Let your body grow weightless. Let go of the flame. There's no more to chase, no more to prove. Only hush, only warmth, only sleep. Blood of the Hollowscale King is complete. The hush remains. And you are its keeper now. Good night, Ember Bear. Sleep well.